They thought a 12:20 a.m. email could chain me to their will forever. They thought they'd won when security escorted me out at 7:30 that morning. They had no idea that within hours, I would hold the power to kill their entire $2.7 billion deal pipeline. This is how I went from fired employee to the person who controlled their company's future, all before the sun set on the worst day of my professional life. My name is Lauren Mitchell, and for 8 years, I built something most people only dream of, a multi-billion-dollar partner network from scratch. At 38, I was Director of Strategic Partnerships at Keystone Dynamics, a Denver-based tech company specializing in AI-driven supply chain solutions. My office on the 23rd floor overlooked the Rockies, but I rarely had time to appreciate the view. I wasn't just another corporate climber. I was the architect behind every major enterprise deal Keystone had landed since 2016. Fortune 500 companies didn't sign with us because of our technology alone. They signed because I understood their pain points, their politics, their unspoken fears about digital transformation. I spoke their language, anticipated their objections, and most importantly, I delivered on every promise I made. The irony? I actually loved my job. Not the politics, not the endless meetings, but the chess game of complex negotiations. There's something intoxicating about walking into a boardroom where everyone expects you to fail and walking out with signatures worth hundreds of millions. I was good at it. Hell, I was exceptional at it. But Keystone had changed. Our CEO, Derek Vaughn, came from Wall Street 2 years ago with a simple philosophy. If you weren't responding to emails at midnight, you weren't committed. He called it radical availability. I called it insanity, though never to his face. Derek was 42, silver-haired, and had the kind of smile that made you check your wallet afterward. He measured dedication by timestamp, not results. The culture shift was immediate and brutal. Suddenly, being the last one in the office at 8 p.m. wasn't enough. Weekend emails became tests of loyalty. Response time was tracked, analyzed, weaponized. I adapted because I had to. But I never drank the Kool-Aid. I maintained boundaries, a cardinal sin in Derek's new Keystone. Despite the toxicity, I stayed focused on what mattered, the Falcon deal. Falcon International Logistics was the whale every supply chain tech company wanted to land. A $2.7 billion contract that would revolutionize how they moved freight across 6 continents. I'd spent 18 months cultivating relationships at every level of their organization, from warehouse managers in Shanghai to C-suite executives in London. The deal was mine. Everyone knew it. I'd navigated their concerns about data security, demonstrated ROI projections that made their CFO smile for the first time in recorded history, and even won over their notoriously skeptical chief technology officer. We were one signature away from the biggest win in Keystone's history. What I didn't know was that while I was building bridges with Falcon, others at Keystone were building something else entirely, a plan to cross them without me. The night it all fell apart started like any other. Tuesday, March 14th. I'd been in the office since 7 a.m., running through final preparations for Wednesday's signing ceremony with Falcon. Every detail had to be perfect. The presentation deck, the contract appendices, the implementation timeline. By 10 p.m., my eyes burned from staring at screens, but everything was ready. I drove home through empty Denver streets, my Tesla on autopilot while I mentally rehearsed tomorrow's agenda. The apartment was dark when I arrived, just me and the city lights sprawling below. I poured a glass of wine, took a hot shower, and collapsed into bed at 11:30. For the first time in weeks, I fell asleep instantly. The email arrived at 12:17 a.m. from Derek Vaughn. Subject, urgent. Appendix, 14 review required. Lauren, need you to review and revise Appendix 14 liability clauses, ASAP. Falcon's legal raised concerns. Must have your response tonight. This is priority 1. I slept through it. 8 hours of deep, uninterrupted sleep. A luxury I hadn't afforded myself in months. My phone was on silent, charging on my nightstand. The email sat unread. its urgency evaporating into the digital ether while I dreamed of anything but supply chain logistics. My alarm went off at 6:30 a.m. I reached for my phone, habit scrolling through notifications while my coffee brewed. 23 emails overnight. Typical. I'd check them during my commute. Today was the day. The Falcon signing. My magnum opus. I dressed carefully, my best charcoal suit, the Hermes scarf my mother gave me for luck. I was applying lipstick when my phone buzzed. A Slack notification. HR system bot. Your access to Keystone systems has been suspended. Please contact HR immediately. My hand froze mid-swipe. I tried logging into my email. Access denied. The company VPN rejected my credentials. My keycard app showed deactivated in angry red letters. Another Slack message, this time from Derek himself. Your employment with Keystone Dynamics has been terminated effective immediately due to failure to respond to critical business communications. Your repeated inability to maintain the availability standards required for your position has jeopardized client relationships. Security will meet you in the lobby to collect company property. I read it 3 times before the words made sense. Terminated, failed to respond. Critical communications. The midnight email. My hands shook as I scrolled to find it, buried between a LinkedIn notification and a seamless receipt. 12:17 a.m. While I was sleeping. 7 hours before the biggest deal of my career, they fired me for sleeping. But as the initial shock wore off, something else crept in. Suspicion. Derek knew my schedule. He knew I'd be exhausted after preparing for Falcon. He knew I never checked emails after midnight unless we had international crises. The timing wasn't coincidental. It was surgical. I drove to the office on autopilot, my mind racing. In the parking garage, I spotted Monica Hayes' Range Rover in my usual spot. Monica, our business development director, who'd always resented that I reported directly to Derek. Monica, who'd been oddly interested in the Falcon deal lately, despite having no involvement in enterprise accounts. Security was waiting in the lobby. Tom, who I'd shared coffee with every morning for 5 years, couldn't meet my eyes as he handed me a cardboard box. I'm sorry, Lauren. Orders from the top. You've got 15 minutes to clear your desk. I rode the elevator in silence, the weight of humiliation crushing my chest. But when I reached my office, something strange happened. Instead of packing frantically, I sat at my desk and really looked at my computer screen. Still logged in. It hadn't remote wiped it yet. Keystone's security was notoriously slow. I had minutes, maybe less. My fingers flew across the keyboard, screenshotting emails, downloading files. And then I saw it. A message thread between Derek and Monica from yesterday afternoon. Monica. Confirm L.M. won't be present for Falcon signing. Derek. Confirmed. Email goes out at midnight. She never responds that late. Monica. Legal docs updated. My name as principal negotiator. Derek. Perfect. Falcon won't know the difference. They'd planned it. Orchestrated my removal hours before the career-defining moment I'd worked toward for 18 months. But in their haste to steal my triumph, they'd overlooked one critical detail: the power of attorney. My fingers trembled as I searched through the legal documents folder. There it was, buried in supplementary contracts from 6 months ago. During a particularly complex negotiation phase, Falcon's legal team had insisted on a specific provision. Any binding agreement required authorization from the designated strategic partnership representative. They'd been burned before by corporate musical chairs and wanted continuity. I'd signed the power of attorney document, making me the sole authorized representative for all Falcon Keystone dealings. Derek and Monica had no idea it existed. Lauren, I'm sorry, but you need to go. Tom stood in my doorway, genuinely distressed. I grabbed my phone, took photos of the screen showing the email thread, then calmly began packing my personal items. A decade of my life fit into one pathetic cardboard box. As Tom escorted me to the elevator, I passed Monica in the hallway. She was wearing a new suit, expensive, designer. Her smile was all teeth. Such a shame, Lauren, but don't worry, the Falcon deal is in good hands. I said nothing. Let her gloat. She'd learn soon enough. In the parking garage, I sat in my car and let the rage wash over me. Then I channeled it into something more useful. Strategy. I pulled up the power of attorney document on my phone. The language was clear, irrevocable without written consent from both parties. Keystone couldn't sign anything with Falcon without me. But more importantly, the document gave me the right to withdraw Keystone's negotiation rights entirely if I deemed it necessary to protect the interests of the partnership. They'd given me a loaded gun and forgotten I had it. I checked the time. 8:15 a.m. The signing was scheduled for 10 a.m. at the Four Seasons downtown. Falcon's CEO, Jackson Pierce, was flying in from London. He'd be at the hotel by now. I made 3 calls. First, to my lawyer, who confirmed the POA was bulletproof. Second, to my accountant, who reminded me that Mitchell Strategies LLC, the consulting firm I'd registered years ago but never activated, was still legally viable. Third, to the Four Seasons concierge, booking the small conference room adjacent to where Keystone had reserved the main ballroom. Then I sent a single email to Jackson Pierce's personal address, one he'd given me after we'd bonded over single malt scotch during a deal dinner. Jackson. Urgent matter regarding this morning's signing. Critical information about the Keystone partnership you need to know. Can you meet me at 9 a.m.? Conference room B. This affects everything. Lauren. His response came in 2 minutes. On my way. I drove to the Four Seasons, my box of possessions rattling in the back seat. In the parking lot, I changed from my Lucky Hermes scarf to a different one, bold red, the color of war. I applied fresh lipstick and checked my appearance. I didn't look like someone who'd just been fired. I looked like someone about to change the game. Jackson was already waiting when I arrived, his silver hair and British bearing unmistakable, even from across the lobby. His expression shifted from cordial to concerned when he saw my face. Lauren, what's this about? Derek assured me you were handling final preparations. I gestured to the conference room. We need to talk privately. Once the door closed, I laid it out simply. No embellishment, the midnight email, the termination. The screenshots of Derek and Monica's conspiracy. Jackson's face darkened with each revelation. They fired you 8 hours before signing, after everything you've done? They wanted the credit. Monica's been positioned as the new relationship owner. You'd never have known I existed after today. Jackson stood, pacing to the window. Bloody hell. We chose Keystone because of you, Lauren. The board explicitly mentioned your involvement as a deciding factor. There's more. I showed him the power of attorney. Legally, Keystone can't execute this deal without my authorization, and I'm withdrawing it. His eyebrows shot up. Can you do that? Already done. My lawyer filed the withdrawal notice 20 minutes ago. But, Jackson, I leaned forward. What if I could offer you something better? I outlined my proposal. Mitchell Strategies would serve as the exclusive strategic partner for Falcon's digital transformation. Same technology framework. I had relationships with all the key vendors, but with someone they actually trusted running point. Someone who wouldn't play games with midnight emails and corporate backstabbing. You're asking me to blow up a $2.7 billion deal an hour before signing? I'm offering you a better one. With someone who's never let you down versus people who just showed you exactly who they are. Jackson studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled. The same smile I'd seen when we closed our first preliminary agreement. Monica Hayes is about to have a very bad morning. Jackson made the first call to his legal team while I drafted the framework for our new agreement on my laptop. My hands were steady now, adrenaline sharpening every thought into crystal clarity. This wasn't revenge. This was justice wrapped in a better business proposition. Margaret, yes, I need you here immediately. Bring the full contract team. He paused, listening. No, there's been a change, a significant one. Conference room B. He ended the call and turned to me. You realize what you're doing? Keystone will come after you with everything they have. Let them try. I've done nothing illegal. The POA gives me explicit rights. And Mitchell Strategies is a legitimate entity. I'm not stealing their technology. I'm offering strategic consultation using my industry relationships and expertise. Completely different business model. Within 20 minutes, the room filled with Falcon's legal eagles. I presented the situation cleanly, watching their expressions shift from skepticism to intrigue to outright admiration. Corporate lawyers lived for these moments when legal precision met poetic justice. The power of attorney is airtight. Margaret, Falcon's chief legal counsel, confirmed after reviewing the documents. Ms. Mitchell has full authority to withdraw Keystone's negotiation rights. More importantly, she's correct. Nothing prevents Falcon from engaging her company directly. Jackson checked his watch. It's 9:40. Derek's expecting me in 20 minutes. A predatory smile crossed his face. Margaret, draft an engagement letter with Mitchell Strategies. Same terms as the Keystone deal, but with Lauren's company as the primary strategic partner. We'll maintain the technology licensing separately. Go directly to the vendors. I have those relationships, I added, including the CEO's personal numbers. They'll take my calls. While the lawyers worked their magic, I excused myself to the bathroom. In the mirror, I saw someone I hadn't seen in years, the woman who'd walked into Keystone 8 years ago, hungry and unafraid. Derek had tried to bury her under midnight emails and manufactured crises. He'd failed. My phone buzzed incessantly. 17 missed calls from Derek, 23 from Monica. I turned it off. At 9:55, we moved as a unit toward the main ballroom. Inside, Keystone's entire executive team waited around the massive conference table. Derek stood at the head, practicing his speech. Monica sat to his right, already playing the part of deal closer. The room smelled of expensive coffee and cheaper ambition. Their faces when Jackson walked in with me were worth every sleepless night I'd given that company. Jackson! Derek recovered first, his smile rigid. We're ready for you. Though I'm not sure why. There's been a change, Jackson interrupted, his British accent making the words sound almost polite. After careful consideration, Falcon International has decided to engage Mitchell Strategies as our strategic partner for this initiative. The silence was exquisite. I watched Derek's face cycle through confusion, rage, and finally, understanding. That's impossible, Monica stammered. We have a deal. The contracts? We're contingent on authorization from your designated representative. Margaret stepped forward, every inch the corporate warrior. Which Ms. Mitchell has formally withdrawn as of 8:47 this morning. I have the documentation here. You can't do this. Derek's mask finally slipped completely. Lauren, you were terminated. You have no authority. Actually, I do. I spoke for the first time, my voice carrying across the room. The power of attorney you never bothered to read gives me irrevocable rights to protect the partnership's interests. Turns out, the partnership's interests are better served without you. This is theft, corporate espionage. We'll sue you into oblivion. Jackson laughed. Actually laughed. For what? Exercising her legal rights? Offering us a better deal? Derek, you fired the one person we trusted because she didn't answer an email at midnight. What did you think would happen? I pulled out my phone, showing them the screenshot of their conspiracy. Or should we discuss how you and Monica plan to falsify the negotiation records? I'm sure Keystone's board would find that fascinating. Monica had gone pale. She understood the implications faster than Derek. Fraud, conspiracy, potential SEC violations if they'd misrepresented the deal structure to investors. You planned this, Derek whispered. No, I corrected. You planned this. I just refuse to be your victim. I turned to Jackson. Shall we use conference room B? I believe we have documents to sign. As we filed out, leaving Keystone's leadership in stunned silence, I allowed myself one glance back. Derek stood frozen, his empire crumbling in real time. Monica was already on her phone, probably calling her lawyer. Ms. Mitchell, Jackson said as we walked. Remind me never to send you midnight emails. Deal, I smiled. I promised to answer all urgent communications during business hours. The signing ceremony that should have been Keystone's triumph became the birth of Mitchell Strategies. In Conference Room B, with Falcon's legal team working at breakneck speed, we executed a new partnership agreement. My hand was steady as I signed my name, not as someone's employee, but as CEO of my own company. By 10:30 a.m., it was official. Mitchell Strategies was now the exclusive strategic partner for Falcon International's $2.7 billion digital transformation initiative. We'll need to issue a press release, Jackson said, already thinking ahead. The market will want to know why we shifted partners at the last moment. Keep it simple, I suggested. Falcon International chooses boutique consultancy Mitchell Strategies for more personalized strategic guidance. No need to mention Keystone at all. Margaret nodded approvingly. Clean, professional, devastating. My phone, now turned back on, was having a seizure. 57 missed calls, over 100 texts. I ignored them all except one, from Tom in security. Holy shit, Lauren, Derek just punched a wall. What did you do? What I did was walk back through the Four Seasons lobby with my head high, past clusters of Keystone employees who'd gathered like refugees from a corporate disaster. Some looked shocked, others almost gleeful. Derek had made plenty of enemies with his midnight email terrorism. In the parking lot, I finally encountered Derek himself. He was leaning against his Porsche, tie askew, looking like he'd aged 5 years in 5 minutes. You destroyed everything, he said, his voice hoarse. I stopped, considering my words carefully. No, Derek. I built everything. The relationships, the trust, the deal structure, that was all me. You tried to steal it. The only thing I destroyed was your ability to take credit for my work. The board will never forgive this. Do you have any idea what you've cost us? The same thing you tried to cost me. Everything. I stepped closer, meeting his eyes. But here's the difference. I'll build something better. You'll just find another Lauren to terrorize with midnight emails until they wise up too. You think you've won? I'll bury you. No one in this industry will touch you when I'm done. They already are touching me. Derek, my phone hasn't stopped ringing since Jackson's press release went live. I pulled up my LinkedIn app, showing him the flood of connection requests and messages. Turns out, people respect someone who stands up to bullies. Who knew? His face contorted with rage, but Monica appeared, grabbing his arm. Derek, don't. Legal says we need to stop talking. Now. She looked at me, and for a moment, I saw fear in her eyes. She knew what was coming: investigations, depositions, possibly criminal charges if they'd falsified any documents. Her designer suit suddenly looked like expensive armor that couldn't protect her. Lauren, she started. Save it for your lawyer, Monica. I walked to my car, leaving them in the parking lot of their shattered ambitions. The news traveled fast. By noon, it was on every industry blog. Falcon International surprises market with last-minute partner switch. By 2 p.m., more details had leaked. Keystone Dynamics loses largest deal in company history. By market close, the real headlines appeared. Keystone stock plummets 14% on loss of Falcon contract. My apartment became command central. I hired my first employee at 3 p.m., Sarah Chen, a brilliant strategist I'd tried to bring to Keystone, but Derek had vetoed for lacking commitment. She had twin toddlers. By 5 p.m., I'd secured office space downtown. By 7 p.m., 3 more Keystone refugees had reached out, ready to jump ship. Jackson called as I was finally eating my first meal of the day. Thai takeout while reviewing vendor contracts. Thought you should know, he said, amusement in his voice. Derek tried calling our board directly. Claimed you'd stolen proprietary information. And our chairman told him that firing someone for sleeping through a midnight email showed such poor judgment that Falcon was relieved to avoid partnering with Keystone. Then he hung up. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in 48 hours. Oh, and Lauren? We've been so impressed with how you handled this situation that we're recommending Mitchell strategies to our Asian subsidiaries. Expect a call from Singapore tomorrow. After we hung up, I stood on my balcony, looking out at the Denver skyline. Keystone's building gleamed in the distance, its lights beginning to twinkle in the dusk. Somewhere in that tower, Derek was probably composing another midnight email to some other poor soul, demanding the impossible. But not to me. Never again to me. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Tom from security. Just wanted you to know. You're a legend here. Good luck with everything." I smiled, typing back, "Thanks, Tom. And get some sleep. Midnight emails aren't worth it." The dominoes fell faster than anyone anticipated. Within 72 hours of losing the Falcon deal, Keystone faced a full-scale crisis. 3 major clients called emergency meetings to reassess their partnerships. The board launched an internal investigation. Derek's midnight email culture suddenly became a liability no one wanted to defend. I watched it unfold from my new office on the 40th floor of the Republic Plaza, higher than Keystone's offices, a detail I enjoyed more than I should have. Sarah Chen had worked her magic, and within a week, Mitchell Strategies looked like it had existed for years. Professional website, polished marketing materials, and most importantly, a pipeline of opportunities from companies tired of being held hostage by vendor bullies. The Singapore call Jackson mentioned turned into 3 separate contracts worth $400 million. Word traveled fast in our industry. The woman who'd stood up to Keystone and won became something of a folk hero to overworked account managers everywhere. But the real satisfaction came on a Thursday morning, 2 weeks after the coup. Monica Hayes was escorted from Keystone's building by security, the same walk of shame I'd endured. The investigation had uncovered what we all suspected. She'd been falsifying client contact reports for months, claiming relationships she didn't have, meetings that never happened. The Falcon conspiracy was just the tip of the iceberg. She called me that night. I almost didn't answer. "Don't hang up," she said quickly. "I know you hate me, but I need a job," I guessed. "A reference, a time machine. Advice," she said quietly, "on how to start over. You did it." "How?" I could have been cruel. Part of me wanted to be. But I remembered the woman I'd been 2 weeks ago, betrayed and discarded, and chose differently. "You start by owning what you did," I said. "No excuses, no blaming Derek, no minimizing. Then you figure out what you actually want, not what you think you should want. And Monica? Whatever you do next, do it honestly. The shortcuts aren't worth it." She was quiet for a long moment. "I'm sorry, Lauren. For what it's worth." "It's worth something," I admitted. "Good luck." Derek lasted another month. The board tried to salvage him, bringing in consultants to reform company culture. But when your CEO's management style becomes a Harvard Business Review case study on what not to do, the writing's on the wall. His resignation email came at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. The timestamp made me smile. The real vindication came from unexpected sources. Emily Watson, a junior analyst at Keystone who'd suffered under Derek's regime, sent me a LinkedIn message. "You gave us hope that we didn't have to accept being treated like that. Thank you." Former clients reached out with horror stories of their own. Midnight emails were just the beginning. Derek had created a culture where burnout was a badge of honor and work-life balance was considered weakness. My stand had exposed something rotten that went far deeper than one bad boss. 3 months after my firing, Mitchell Strategies had 12 employees, 4 major clients, and a reputation for delivering results without destroying souls. We had one core rule: no emails after 7 p.m. unless the world was literally ending. Even then, we'd probably wait until morning. Jackson Pierce became more than a client. He became a mentor and friend. Over drinks one evening, he shared his own story of corporate betrayal from decades earlier. "You handled it better than I did," he admitted. I spent years plotting revenge. You took 24 hours and moved on to building something better. I had a good teacher, I said, raising my glass. You showed me that trusting the right people matters more than organizational charts. Speaking of trust, he leaned forward. I have a proposition. Falcon's acquiring a logistics company in Europe. They need someone to manage the integration, someone who understands both strategy and politics. Interested in going global? I was. Mitchell Strategies opened its London office 6 months later. The Forbes article came out on the anniversary of my firing. From midnight email to billion-dollar pipeline, how Lauren Mitchell turned termination into triumph. They got some details wrong, made it sound more planned than it was. But they captured the important part. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the push you needed to build something extraordinary. Derek's quoted in the article, claiming he always knew I'd succeed on my own. The reporter asked me for a response. I wish him well, I said simply. Everyone deserves a chance to learn from their mistakes. What I didn't say was that Mitchell Strategies had just signed 2 of Keystone's former top performers, both citing cultural differences as their reason for leaving, or that we'd won a competitive bid against them just that morning. Some might call it revenge. I called it building a better future, one reasonable email at a time. 2 years later, I stood on the terrace of our London office, watching the Thames wind through the city. Mitchell Strategies had grown to 150 employees across 4 continents. We just closed our largest deal yet, a $5.2 billion transformation project for a consortium of European retailers. The financial press called us the anti-Keystone, a company that proved you could win without grinding people into dust. My phone buzzed, a calendar reminder. Team meeting, 3 p.m. GMT. I smiled. It was 11 p.m. in Singapore, midnight in Tokyo. But none of my regional directors would be dialing in. We'd learned that the best ideas came from well-rested minds, not exhausted ones chained to their laptops. The elevator chimed, and Jackson stepped onto the terrace, 2 champagne flutes in hand. Celebrating already? I asked. Why not? We've earned it. He handed me a glass. You know, I've been thinking about that morning at the Four Seasons, the look on Derek's face when he realized what happened. Ancient history, I said, though we both knew it wasn't. That moment had defined everything that came after. Perhaps. But I heard something interesting yesterday. Keystone's being acquired. Private equity firm out of New York. They're cleaning house, bringing in entirely new leadership. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication. Keystone had become irrelevant to my story the moment I signed my name as CEO of Mitchell Strategies. Good for them. I meant it. Maybe they'll build something better. You're more gracious than I would be. No, I corrected. I'm more focused on what matters. Revenge is exhausting, Jackson. Building something is energizing. My phone lit up with a text from Sarah. BBC wants to interview you for their series on corporate transformation. Interested? I showed Jackson, who laughed. From terminated employee to thought leader, not a bad arc. The arc's not finished yet, I said. We're just getting started. As the sun set over London, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, I thought about everyone who'd played a part in this journey. Tom, the security guard, who'd shown me kindness on my worst day. Sarah, who'd bet her career on a company that was 1 day old. Even Monica, who'd taught me that grace in victory matters more than the victory itself. And yes, even Derek. Without his midnight email, I might have spent another decade building someone else's empire instead of my own. My assistant appeared in the doorway. Lauren, your 3 p.m. is ready when you are. I finished my champagne and headed inside. 50 people were gathered in our main conference room, my leadership team. Brilliant minds from around the world who'd chosen to build something meaningful with me. Before we dive into the quarterly review, I began. I want to share something. This week marks 2 years since Keystone fired me for missing a midnight email. At the time, it felt like the end of everything. Instead, it was the beginning of something infinitely better, not because of what I built, but because of who chose to build it with me. The room erupted in applause. Someone had ordered a cake. Happy second rebirthday, written in elegant script across the top. So here's my promise to all of you, I continued. Mitchell Strategies will never send a midnight email. We'll never measure dedication by timestamp. We'll never sacrifice your humanity for a spreadsheet. Because the best revenge against a toxic culture isn't destroying it. It's building something so much better that it becomes obsolete. Later that night, alone in my apartment overlooking Hyde Park, I opened my laptop to review the day's emails. All 47 of them, received during reasonable business hours. I responded to the urgent ones, scheduled the rest for tomorrow, and closed the laptop at 8 p.m. sharp. My phone buzzed one last time, a LinkedIn notification. Derek Vaughn had viewed my profile. I smiled, imagining him scrolling through my company's achievements, seeing the life I'd built from the ashes of his midnight email. I didn't block him. I didn't reach out. I simply set my phone aside and picked up the book I'd been meaning to finish for weeks. Because the ultimate revenge wasn't making him suffer. It was making his opinion irrelevant. Outside my window, London sparkled with possibility. Somewhere out there, another Lauren was probably answering midnight emails, thinking this was just how things worked. Maybe tomorrow, she'd realize it wasn't. Maybe she'd choose something different. Maybe she'd discover that the best time to revolutionize your life isn't at midnight. It's at sunrise, when the whole world is waking up to new possibilities. And if someone thinks they can bury you with a midnight email, let them try. Show them what you look like at dawn. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts about toxic work cultures and finding the courage to build something better. Your story might inspire someone else to choose sunrise over midnight emails.